and welcome to the Pause It podcast. I'm Dr. Sam, and with me, or kind of like half with me today, is Dr. Robert.
Not my fault. There's some very important events going on today, and I'm not going to skip the draft. That's the NFL draft. So I want to thank the Steelers for their first pick, Broderick Jones. Very excited to welcome you to the team, and can't wait for the second pick.
Yeah,
Let's go Steelers.
my husband was literally like, "This is one of my favorite days of the whole year. Kids, do you know why?" Like we were at dinner. It's like, "Do you know why I love the draft so much?" Like he was like so excited.
It's so important. See, this is why I love Paul, because he understands the importance of football, and it's like a new beginning for every team.
Yeah.
And that's the best part.
Yeah, he's like, you get to watch like the culmination of all their hard work. He was making it a lesson for the kids. It was great.
And we should mention his podcast while we're here.
We should, yes.
It's the MAB
Yes.
Sports Podcast, right?
Yep, exactly.
Very good. They're both very entertaining. Paul is one of
MAB
the
sports podcast. Yeah.
It's
Most
great.
awesome in Brandana.
So if
Yes.
you want to hear great
Give it a
content,
listen. They're great. Yeah, absolutely. They always have good takes and it's really fun to listen to. But yeah, so he's really excited. So that's what he's doing upstairs right now, is watching the draft.
I wish I was with him, but I'm very happy to be here with you too, Sam. So
Yeah, that's okay. So we'll keep this one brief today, I guess. So Robert can go watch the rest of the draft.
priorities, folks.
He might already be watching part of it. You see his eye wander, you know what's happening today.
Still no.
Well, okay, but this is a really fun time of year and it's springtime. So we figured we'd kind of well, a couple of things. I keep getting like a lot of the same questions at work, and then we actually got another email. So we were pretty excited. And the email was really kind of going along in that same kind of vein of wanting to know about like things that happen in the spring. So like this particular person was asking, is there anything that I can do to keep my dog from destroying my grass? Like I am, they're peeing and it's turning everything brown, and like what can I do? And so I was like, ooh, I'm going to get that question a lot this summer. And so we kind of made a little list. And so I have my little list here of some of those things that come up. So that's a good one to start with. Unfortunately, there is nothing that you can no magic you can give your dog. If they're peeing on your grass, you basically have two choices. Dilute it afterwards with water.
Which is a great idea.
Yep. Or train them to go somewhere else. So like, especially if you have a puppy and you're starting out with where they're going to go, you have the power, because you really should be walking them out anyway to make sure they're eliminating before, a lot of times people complain about like, oh, well, my dog goes outside and they come right in and they pee. And it's like, well, where did you go out with them? Do you know if they even peed? And they're like, no, I didn't. It's like, go out with them. But you can train them to go in a specific spot. So if you have like a bed of rocks or an area behind trees, or like, you know what I mean, a spot that's particular that doesn't have any grass that you're not worried about getting ruined, then that's what you should do.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. Because I don't get that very often on ER, but it makes sense because I think people are always trying to find ways to like protect their yard, but dogs have to urinate, so
Yeah,
it's gotta help.
exactly.
Like you can't stop them from peeing, guys. So I think the best thing we used to do was just always spray down the yard afterwards. It was a quick spray, and we had the hose on the side. Took 5 seconds. So
Right. Yeah. Dilution is the solution to pollution.
I have not heard that in years. Literally years.
Do you know that my texts are probably like so sick of my like 5 jokes that I make all the time, you know what I mean? And so whenever I have a wound that comes in, and I love, if you know anything about me, I love a good wound. Not that I ever want a dog to be wounded, but I really enjoy like cleaning them and fixing them and healing them and watching them heal. I just love the way the body heals things. It's so interesting to me. But yeah, one of the very first things you do is lavage, 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 lavage. And I always make that joke, and they're like, yeah, pollution is the solution, like every time.
We all have those jokes. It's like a mom joke. You get your mom
Yeah.
jokes.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah. I'm pretty sure that they all could just do a really good impression of me, like in each room's like, allergies, go. I already know what she's gonna say, or you know what I mean? Like I have my spiel and I'm like, here's my coat. Just you know what I'm gonna say.
I'm gonna come visit and spend some time at your clinic. I'm just very curious.
To hear what I say.
Yeah.
I do. And I'm a talker too. They're usually like, there's a lot of times where they're like, your next one's ready. You gotta go. Like, hurry up.
You're a talker? That's so weird. That's
Doesn't that shock you? I know, it's so shocking. But anyway, so that was our first question, and I thought that was a really good question. So that is the whole idea behind this podcast. And so um uh we got another one. That is another one that we get all the time. And this one I didn't get this week particularly, but I know it's coming because I think I answer it like several times a month. But have you ever had a dog that eats its own feces?
Thank God, no. Because it's gross. It's just gross. I'm gonna be
It's
completely honest.
disgusting. Yeah, it's
It's
awful.
terribly gross.
You know who ate their own feces?
Gus.
No, not Gus. This was something that Gus is very good at. He's never done that. Phoebe.
Reese's coffee. How could she even see them?
She had eyes when she was a puppy. But the thing that is very interesting about Phoebe is that that was something she did right off the bat as a very young dog, which, by the way, is very common and is
Yeah.
pretty natural behavior of dogs, especially in young dogs, young puppies. And a lot of them will grow out of it. You should try to train them out of it, of course. Um, but she did that for a while as a puppy. She grew out of it. And then when she started to lose her marbles, when she got a little older, she started doing it again.
Really?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I know a lot of young dogs will do it in the beginning. I guess I don't know. Do you know many dogs that do it that lifelong? I feel like most of the time, or maybe the owners are just so dedicated to making it stop. They
I
would.
will get a question every once in a while of like a dog that is literally like, not only do they eat their own feces, but they're like, I'm gonna beat you to it. Like, I know you're gonna try to take it. you know, and they're
Oh,
just like, they love eating their own feces. And so I do think that it should be said that yes, it can be a very normal thing, and it can be just like a behavior, it's pretty like evolutionarily like cleaning up after themselves, pretty normal. But if your dog is consistently eating their feces, or if they never ate their feces before and then like suddenly they're doing it, and they're like otherwise healthy middle-aged dog that's not having cognitive dysfunction in their late later in life, which is what happened to Phoebe, um, then checking for, making sure they're on a balanced and complete diet. So like talking to your doctor about that, talk to your vet about that.
mm.
Um, and then also just making sure that they're not no intestinal parasites or anything like that.
Yeah, no, just like general health screening. That's a good way to start and make
Mhm.
sure there's something major because I think we've both seen. I don't have a problem with home cooked diets, but they're very hard to unless you're going to the right information to make
Yeah.
sure they're nutritionally balanced. And that's a tough part of it. So making sure that if they're on that type of diet, you see the type of behavior start, it might be because you're missing out on something.
Right.
So check on that if you're gonna do
Right.
home cooked food.
Or if they have like a malabsorptive disease, you know what I mean? Like where they're not getting enough nutrients and it's coming through the other side, and they're like still feeling hungry and they haven't really, been able to absorb their food properly. There are conditions that cause that. And so ostensibly those dogs might eat it more than others.
It's such a nice trait to have when you're older though. Like, I don't want to gain weight. Could this pass through and not absorb anything? Sorry,
Oh,
that's
I
probably
thought you meant eating your own feces.
oh god no. No, god no. I'm not that desperate.
I was like, I mean, whatever floats your boat.
Oh god, this will be a weird night. I can already tell. I'm gonna apologize in advance. But
Yeah, no.
yes.
I was like, this one's a little different than
Yeah,
than our normal vibe, but that's fine.
that's all right. Let's take a turn.
But do you ever even get that question? I would wonder if is that like more of a like, because that's the kind of questions I get. But do you get those kind of questions? Probably not.
No, I think the only time I actually have gotten that question was actually from people like who knew I was a vet would contact me through Facebook or something along those lines. Like, hey, by the way, we haven't talked in a while, but I know you're a vet and my dog's eating their own feces. What do I do? And I think the most recent advice I gave was I think I'd seen that you put like hot sauce on their stool, and sometimes I'll prevent them from doing it. There's also like sprays you can get at PetSmart that are supposed to like deter them from eating them again.
Yeah, there's
How
like
effective
one that's like something red. I don't know. It gave Phoebe diarrhea. So I'll tell you, I was not a veterinarian at the time, but she was eating her own feces. And I think I did ask my vet. I was like, what do I do? I mean, it's gross. And there was some powder that you could put on it, but it like made her stools very, very runny. And I was like, well, I mean,
Oh, okay.
I'd rather just clean up her feces that are like actual able to be picked up versus just like liquid diarrhea. So I didn't continue doing
Yeah.
it.
No, I think it's a
And
way
honestly,
easier.
she grew out of it. I mean, I knew she was on a balanced and complete diet. I knew that, you know what I mean, she was not having any nutritional issues, and that is pretty normal. And there are things you can do. I mean, like sometimes dogs are eating their own feces because either they're being left in a situation where it's like they're being left in it, right? I mean that,
Mm,
you know. And so you can make sure that like you're taking them out, you're exercising them, they're having like appropriate mental stimulation in other ways. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
there can be behavioral like pathological components to it, but it you know what I mean? So I think that that's definitely like one of those things like if they're really having an issue with it, especially if they're like a middle-aged dog that never did it before, then I think you need to have a conversation with your doctor. But then
Agreed.
again, too, I mean, like if think about like when dogs give birth, like they clean up their babies and that, you know, it's like normal for them to eat their feces and stuff like that. So there really is a part of it that is absolutely normal. You just have
Yeah.
to look at the situation, I think.
Yep. And just realize dogs are gross. Gonna happen.
Well, that's
So
why when people are like, "Oh, well, they're just like gonna like clean themselves, like they're just gonna lick it and clean it." I'm like, have you seen a dog's mouth?
that's pretty gross. If you haven't, listen to the teeth podcast because you're gonna
Yeah,
learn a
I know,
whole
I know.
bunch
We're
about
just gonna refer you back to the teeth
it.
podcast again. Like, you're never gonna think like, "Oh, they're just gonna lick. They're gonna lick it clean." There's nothing clean inside of a dog's mouth.
You may never kiss anyone again after that podcast. Honestly, it was that podcast was a handful
Yeah,
from
it was
emotionally.
illuminating. I know. I was like, "Ooh, well." I think that we all have to live with like a certain amount of cognitive dissonance to be able to like go through life and not be grossed out all the time.
I 100% agree. So yeah, listen, it's probably one of my favorite, and yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite podcasts. So
Oh, I me too. I mean, like, I still think about like how much I learned, and I'm like, oh man. But
um,
anyway,
yes.
getting on to the next in our list of things. Um, okay, so eating pieces. Okay, but the other one, eating grass. What do you think?
Well, I think I see that all the time. I think dogs come in all the time for it, but most of the time it's because they're actually sick.
Okay.
Uh, so most of the time the dogs are eating grass because they're not feeling well. They're vomiting beforehand. They're eating grass again afterwards. So usually in the situations that I see in it, it's most common because there is something wrong. They feel nauseous and they're trying to eat grass because sometimes there's various reasons for it. How many of them are true? I think it's probably the debate. And there's
I
some
I
evidence for
think I think that the problem with all of these things, right, is that there isn't really one real answer. Nobody really knows. It's like if I could figure out how to get a dog to stop shedding, I mean, I could own an island, right? Like, I mean that like you know what I mean? Like if I could like truly answer the question of like why is my dog eating feces? Why is my dog eating grass? I think that again, it's a multitude of reasons, right? I mean, like some dogs just like to eat grass. Like Phoebe
Mhm.
loved eating grass. She ate grass her whole life. She never threw grass up. Never.
Never really. Okay.
Nope. She just like half cow. She was like, I'm just gonna go eat the grass. And there were no
And
pesticides on it. There was no problems. Like she really didn't have a problem. You know what I mean? It like never really caused an issue. It can cause irritation. It can make them throw up. And I do think you're right. Like I think there are times where they're trying to like induce vomiting pretty much.
yeah.
Um and then truthfully, again, it's kind of the same thing with the feces. Like there's a certain level of it that can be completely normal.
Mhm.
But if they're never did it before and all of a sudden they're doing it all the time, take a look at your diet. Make sure it's complete and balanced. Take a look at the fact that like has your dog had a fecal check in a while? Like could they have intestinal parasites? You know, if there's something new, a new behavior, I feel like the like take home message pretty much for most of the things we talk about is like you know your dog the best. If they've never done that before, if this is like a completely new thing that they're doing, then
Exactly.
address it.
Yeah, exactly. Like if something changes, you guys. I think we all trust owners when they say something's changed. We believe you know your dog best, and I try not to argue people about that too much. Sometimes they're a little off in what they think is wrong, but that's what my job is. That's what your job is to kind of
Oh
figure
yeah,
that part out. So,
yeah.
but yeah, trust your instincts.
Oh yeah. No, I tell people all the time. I'm like, okay, well, if something's wrong, like you're probably right. It could just be like a tiny little thing, but it could be a really big thing. And the only way we're gonna know is by checking. So like, you're never wrong to check. You're never wrong to take a look.
Yeah,
And then
100%.
hopefully, in the end, it's a small thing that's just like not a big deal. But I do think that you should be careful if you are treating your grass. If you do have, you know what I mean? Like if you're putting a bunch of stuff on your grass,
Yeah.
um, then obviously I feel like that's pretty much common sense. But I know that there are some links with like certain types of, I want to say, like pesticides and stuff like that that actually have been linked to like bladder cancer in dogs.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't know that actually.
Yeah.
That wouldn't shock me by any means.
No, I'm pretty sure like one of the doctors at Purdue is like the person who kind of figured that out. And
Oh, nice.
yeah, I think actually at Purdue, like they use only like they're very careful about what chemicals they use and stuff like that. This could be an old wives' tale, I'll be honest with you. This is what I heard from another doctor that went to Purdue. So I've not verified this to be true, but I do know the link about the like certain types of bladder cancers is
Oh,
I think pretty well known.
oh,
Not like
interesting.
not in the, you know what I mean? Like obviously I'm not saying everybody knows,
I mean,
but like
I bet I could ask one of the oncologists and they'll probably be like, yeah, that's true. So I'll check on it. But yeah, that's pretty cool actually. It's
yeah.
it's like because everybody always worries like what we're putting in our own bodies, and then also what we're doing for our own pets. And there's some truth to it. And like, yeah, take care of yourselves and be mindful of
Yeah.
what you're putting in.
Well, and like getting into that, I mean, I think it's important to say like, okay, so here, I mean, it's different for you, right? Because you're in San Diego.
Mhm.
So I think, I guess no matter where you are, you should probably know what the risks are as far as fleas and ticks and like things
Yeah.
that are in your environment and stuff like that. Because do you have heartworm? Like, do you have a lot of mosquitoes?
Not where I'm at. No, they're pretty. I mean, we've had a couple more in the last couple of years, but yeah, for the most part, San Diego's pretty mosquito free, especially as you get close to the coast. Like you don't see it all. It's so
Yeah.
nice.
No, I remember when I lived in LA, like I never had to have Phoebe on anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I had her on flea and tick preventative, but I had Heartgard for whenever I went to New York because
Oh,
there's a
okay.
lot of mosquitoes on Long Island and they were like, "Well, treat her like the month that you go and then the next month and then you should be fine."
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay." So I would do that whenever I would go to New York. And I think it's very important to know that like in some places you really do have to be very careful. Here, I already got bit by a mosquito. So they're
Oh
already
yeah.
out. They're already, oh yeah. And like it frosted the other day. That's the thing. I mean, you remember you lived in Michigan, you know, it's like
Oh yeah.
one day it's 90 degrees, the next day it's 40 degrees. Like it's like all over the place. But that actually like people think, oh, I'm not gonna give any flea and tick preventative, you know, in the winter. And it's like, "Yeah, but do we really have a consistent enough winter to keep it cold?" Like,
Yeah.
not really. And ticks don't care. They
Oh,
can
another.
survive the winter. And
Yep.
now we're seeing more and more things coming through that are like, you know, things you have to worry about. So it's like, I mean, I've seen Ehrlichia where I am
Oh yeah.
in Indiana. Yeah. And I'm in a clinical case of it.
Oh,
So, you know, that's
there.
surprising.
Yeah, we had 3 rescue dogs actually in the last week. They were all Ehrlichia and Anaplasma positive, but they're from Mexico, so it's
That's not surprising then. Yeah, that is a tick-borne illness, by the way, just in case for those of you who are like, what are they talking about? But no, but it's important to know. And so I would say like a PSA for spring, like part of, you know, getting back to like the whole idea of like what we're talking about, like definitely a PSA is like get your dog on their preventatives if they haven't been on them. Make sure that you're testing every year because things fall through the cracks and you'd be surprised how many people like one of our my assistants literally she's like my dog's always on something and he came up Lyme positive.
oh, okay.
And she's like,
But,
"Oh, I did miss 1 month."
yeah, and they've shown studies too. I think. I mean, I'm not sure who did the study. Not that it wasn't. It was more just. I don't think it was sponsored by Heart Guard or anything like that. But I think they've done studies show like when you miss a dose, like your chance of getting those type of infections, depending on your location, increases like substantially. So
Mm,
continuous preventative care is very important. I don't want to say it's not. Obviously, we all try and save money here and there by picking our months wisely,
mhm.
but at the end of the day, like if you can be on continuous care, that's the best option.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the whole point about knowing where you live, right? I mean, I'm all about making every decision you make, every medicine you take is like a there's potential risk, right? Like no matter what you do. So
Yeah,
you always have to look at, well, what's the bigger risk? Is the bigger risk to get a disease that's preventable? Or is the bigger risk their like adverse effect of the medication? The good news is even though there's information on the internet that will totally say that what I'm saying is not true. That like these are really, really safe medications. I have my dog on them every single month. In fact, I even have my phone tells me when to give it to him, because even though I tell people every single day to give their dogs flea tick preventative, it's like very easy for me to come home and be like, do 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 do, and not give it. But my phone
Well,
yells at me and is like, it's the first of the month. Give 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 Gus his flea and tick preventative. And then I remember, because I honestly, like, it is very easy to be like, wait, was that last month or was it this month that I did it? You know what I mean? So it's just
yeah,
like that's how I remember those things. And but I, you know, if the companies themselves, if you can prove that you've been giving them, monthly preventatives and that
yeah,
you test every year, they will actually cover the cost if
yeah.
which I think is really good.
Oh
But
yeah, I think that's
they have to be testing though. That's the one thing that I don't think I always realized that, but we had a situation where a dog got I think heartworm, and they had been giving it, they had been buying it consistently, but they hadn't been testing every year. And so that was the caveat
okay.
of how they got out of like
It's a bummer.
paying for it.
It's a bummer.
Total bummer, because I mean, they were doing everything right. You know what I mean?
It's because they didn't record. Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
It's in most cases. Hopefully, you're testing once a year, and because most routine blood work has it as like a generalized health screen check, with your 40x.
Yeah, I mean, so that's a snap test, just 40x. What he's talking about is like a test that you only need like 3 drops of blood,
Yeah,
and it will tell you if you have been exposed, like if you have heartworm disease, exposure to tick borne illnesses like Lyme disease, or Ehrlichia, and anaplasma. So those are the 3 that
yeah,
it tests for. And just because you test positive for those things doesn't mean you're ever gonna, well, heartworm being its own thing, but like the other
yeah.
3 doesn't mean that you'll ever be clinical for it, but it is something that means that like you've been exposed, you've had an issue. You know what I mean?
No, definitely. So it's always important to follow up and get those general exams because that's how you pay attention to those things and get
Yeah.
caught with bad.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's our PSA then. Like, put them on that. Well, or just talk to your vet and see what they recommend. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the most important thing. Know exactly what it is that you're at risk for, and then you'll know, you know, if you need to be on those things or not.
Yeah.
Um, do you ever, so being then in like emergency practice, then what are some of, like, do you get seasonal questions? Like, because I definitely do. So I'm curious if you have any things that pop up this time of year.
It's tough because like seasonal in San Diego isn't
Oh
really
yeah, I guess that shoots that right down. You don't really have a spring.
we don't have too many seasonal issues. I think probably an ongoing issue we have every year that's like just persistent is dog parks.
Mm, okay.
That's probably the biggest issue that I see on a regular basis because back in the Midwest, there was definitely a spike when the weather got nicer.
Yeah.
Dogs go outside more, and the number of dog bite injuries would
Mm,
increase.
mm-hmm.
Just because not every dog gets along, and some dogs don't play well with others. And when that happens, they end up with chew marks on their back and their face. And so that'd be the majority of cases I would see back in Chicago. And now we see them all year long with San Diego because it's just, fortunately, always nice here.
Right. So what do you think of, like, would you take Loki to a dog park, or are you like a non-dog park kind of guy?
I've seen too many injuries at this point. Like, and I'm probably jaded as all hell from it. Just because
Yeah.
I see every night. I have a wound every night that I'm fixing from a dog park.
Ooh, I'm moving
So
to San Diego.
see, uh, weather. But yeah, wounds are just. I think I'm just so jaded from seeing wounds every night that I'm just like, you only got one eye as it is. There's no reason to make that worse. So, and my dog's an idiot too. He doesn't know when people don't like him, so he's questionable.
Oh yeah,
So,
no, Phoebe, I lived in New York City with her
mm,
when she was younger, and then in LA with her. Man, she lived everywhere with me. She lived on the East Coast, on the West Coast, and I lived in North Carolina, and then I was in Michigan. So we lived all over the place. And when we were in the cities, like when we were in New York and then we were in LA, we went to dog parks all the time.
yeah,
And yeah, I saw a lot of bad stuff in dog parks. She got attacked in New York. And it's also the way people deal with it too. Like you've got some people that are excellent and are like, I can't believe my dog did that. I'm so sorry. Like I'll pay your vet bill, whatever. But
Yeah.
I would say that the guy that owned the dog that attacked Phoebe, he grabbed his dog and booked it out of there. Now, thankfully, she was fine. Like she didn't have any major wounds, but I was very rattled. She actually didn't really care that much, truthfully. But this dog just like went after her for no reason because she didn't
Oh, it's
really. I mean, she was such a calm dog. You know what I mean? She
yeah.
just. But the smushy face, I swear, I think some dogs think that they're like grimacing at them or something, and the dog just didn't like her, and and then in LA, it wasn't Phoebe never got into it with anybody in LA, but I saw just like people who had dogs that just should never have been at a dog park. Like they weren't well socialized and they would
Yeah.
just attack other dogs. And so to me, I'm not I'm with you. I've seen so many bad things.
Yeah. It's just I'll take him for a run and go for a walk, and or have make find like a play buddy that I know he gets along with, or
Hmm.
sometimes I want really off hours. Like that's the one advantage of my job. I can go during the middle of the day when there's not a lot of people there.
Yeah.
The one thing I will do from time to time, but outside of that, he's him and I are buddies. We don't need to go nowhere.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Just gonna
So
hang out. Well, I did
yeah,
love taking Phoebe though to the beach. That was like the dog beaches. That was one of the things that I love so much about LA. And she'd get a corneal ulcer every time we went, but like she didn't get into bed with other dogs. But like, but it was I love. So I suppose like because we just like loved the experience of that. They weren't that busy though. It felt like there wasn't that many dogs around when we would go. So maybe it was just the times that I went too.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, it just depends. Just be careful and yeah, don't expect the other person to pay. It
Yeah.
doesn't
I
happen.
mean, I think if you know that you're accepting a certain amount of risk, then it's okay to go. But here around here, doggy daycares are really, really big. Like they're really
Yeah.
big. And I think if you pick your doggy daycare well and you let them like just be honest, like my dog does really well with a few dogs, but not a huge crowd or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there are some that are better than others. Some that like have that really strict like we're not going to let more than 8 dogs together or you know what I mean, like something like that. But then there's ones that are just like worse than a dog park because there's just so many dogs, you know what I mean? So I think you have to also really pick your place. But here I like that because there's usually somebody watching, and so I have seen some dog fights at those. I mean, that's inevitable when you have a bunch of dogs together, but I feel like they're not as bad because they really do try to like pick who interacts and things
They're
like
pretty good about it. I'm surprised how many I don't see as many from grooming or not grooming, from boarding facilities as I
that.
would have thought, to be honest with you. Most of it's
Right.
almost always same household or dog park.
Yes.
It's rarely a boarding facility in my in
It,
my in my experience. So
yeah, it is always shocking, like when you see those stories where like dogs have been together for years and years and years, and then one
something,
comes in and you're just like, what happened? You know what I mean?
yeah.
Because I've actually seen some pretty devastating things that way.
Those are usually the worst ones. Honestly, the ones I've seen
Yeah.
that are worse, the ones that are maybe not the worst ones, but they're pretty bad. I'm
Hmm.
surprised at how bad. It's like I expect maybe like a little tiny bite, just like a warning bite.
Yeah.
Man, some of those at home ones are rough.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I bet you that's probably because they've probably, I hate to say it, but they probably ignored the first few little tiny bites, and it was you
yeah,
saw like the culmination of like multiple times that it happened. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because they've lived together so long. Oh, they got into a scrap and nothing happened. So then it's easier to kind of like let that go, let that go, let that go, and then
oh yeah,
not to say that they're not good owners. I'm sure they are, but
oh
it's
yeah.
just um. So then, do you see more hit by cars at this juncture? Oh no, because you're not spring. I was just trying to think of like if you know what I mean. Like, do you see a lot? I mean, you must see a lot of them.
Hip. I would see a fair number of hit by cars
Yeah.
and attacked by dogs. Attacked by coyote. Coyotes are bad. Those
Oh,
are yeah.
you
That's
see
a
those a
actually that's a
lot.
problem. Coyotes all the time. We lost. Yeah, I euthanized 2 or 3 last week from coyotes alone.
What? Has anyone ever brought you a coyote? Like thinking
No.
it's a dog?
Yes. Not me personally. My colleague. They're like, oh,
Like a
found this
like
puppy.
a
I'm like,
baby coyote?
yeah. We're like, that's not a puppy. Go bring that back outside because, um, yeah.
Oh
But
no.
do you guys not get a lot of coyote attacks in your area?
We don't because where we are, I mean, we have seen coyotes, like, in fact, even like where my clinic is, which is very odd to think about because like there's literally a Target across the street from my clinic. Like it's literally in the middle
Yeah,
of everything. But but then there's a bunch of woods, like, and a lot of land behind where I work. And so yeah, there's actually deer, coyote, like back there. I've never seen them, but my boss told me that they were back there. I was like,
yeah.
okay, crazy. So I have yet to see one of those, but I would imagine where you are, that would make a lot of sense that you would see that.
Yeah, we see them all the time. It's and the biggest thing I tell owners is do not let your dog outside at night without supervision, even for a moment. Even if you think you got a high fence, does not matter. These things clear 6 foot fences like it's their job.
Oh yeah.
And they will take and if you have a little white fluffy dog or a chihuahua, they're like sounds terrible, but they're a prime meal. Honestly, they will come in so quickly. I had an owner the other night, literally just went out to get her newspaper from her mailbox. So 30 steps, maybe. In that time frame, she walked outside with her dog. The dog was taken by 2 coyotes, and she got it back with her sons, but the dog didn't make it. So,
That's
like,
horrible.
yeah, so she was outside for 30 seconds. So I cannot stress enough, like if you have a small dog, particularly small dogs, because the bigger ones they tend to be able to hold their own a bit. But small dogs, do not have them on a leash. Focus on them and then get back inside because it's just not worth it. If you have coyotes in your area, it's not worth it because they're getting hungrier and hungrier and more aggressive with things.
Ooh, that's horrible. I guess when we lived in LA, I mean, this is like going back so long ago now. There
Mm.
were coyotes, but they weren't that brazen. You know what I mean? Like I'd seen them up in the canyons because we used to hike up in the canyons, and there'd be a pretty good sized group of us.
Yeah.
Like because we would take like a pack of dogs up. You know what I mean? That they all knew each other. They got along.
Yeah.
We didn't have any fights, but we also would test them before, like, together. You know what I mean? Like we could do some like temperament testing before we would put them all together. Um, but anyway, yeah, we would see them far away, but never up close. And I wonder if now, because a lot of the people's houses were up in the Hollywood Hills, and they would definitely, I mean, they if they were up there, they wouldn't let their dogs out, like you said, like at night, especially the smaller dogs. Because, and I even had some people that wouldn't let them out because of um like birds of prey, like hawks and stuff.
They're big. If they're the dog's small enough, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
I know.
talking
Was it?
purse dogs, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, by the proposal. That was a great movie. If you haven't seen it, Ryan Reynolds, Sandra Bullock,
Oh
quality.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very cute. Yes, little dog gets taken by a bird of prey, and you're like, oh, can
Yeah.
that really happen? Yes, yes, it can.
Yes, yes, it
Uh,
can.
Smaller dog, not that size of dog. I don't think that size. Okay.
um,
Um,
so I guess, like, other than dog parks, oh, one thing I would say, and this is probably different for you again versus me, but this time of year we see so many torn ACLs because like dogs have been like laying on the couch all winter and like nobody's going outside, and now they're like, I'm free, I'm gonna run and I'm an athlete. And it's like, you are, but like you need to work back into it.
yep,
You need
I
to
would.
get those
I
5 pounds off that you put on over the winter.
Oh yeah. Why even want? It happens for people too. It's like I went to play soccer the other night and I twisted my ankle. I'm like, I should really try and work back into this and not just play a full game like I'm young again because it's just not the same. And your dogs feel the same way. Yeah,
Ease them into it. I mean, better yet, don't let them gain 5 pounds over the winter. But if they do, ease them back into it, and don't just like go from 0 to like 100. Because I feel like we see so many torn ACLs in the spring.
yeah. I totally forgot about that, but yeah, ACLs were a nightmare back in the day.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I guess like, when you worked in a place that was seasonal,
yeah,
like where things changed.
it was more obvious there. Now it's just constant chaos. So it's
Yeah. Now you
well,
just have all those things, all those problems all year round.
it's I'll be employed for a long time, thank God. So
Yeah. Well, then I guess you see. So then the last thing that I think we should kind of just mention as a little PSA for everybody is like, as it gets hotter, be careful with like heat stroke and stuff like that. That's got to be something that you see a lot.
yeah, heat stroke for sure. Particularly with unfortunately like the yeah, it's sad. I'm sorry. As we talk about these things, I just remember cases like this last week that came through and like we had an English bulldog that they left outside all day and it was 90 degrees.
Oh no.
Bulldog was gone by the time the owner got home.
Oh.
So sad. It's just it's sad. But so yes, be very careful with the heat. Do not leave your dogs outside. it happens very quickly, but especially if they have the smush face breeds, those are
So true.
incredibly high risk. Do not go for runs with them during the middle of the day. Take them in the evenings. Get up early. And I can't stress those things enough because it happens all the time, and it's very, very sad. And the owners, it's not. You feel so bad. It just sucks.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's like the other thing too is like I think that maybe if you live in a place that gets cool, a lot of the times you think you can leave them in the car and stuff like that, like just for a minute or whatever. It's so much hotter in a car than it is. Think about like children, dogs. It's like don't leave them in the car.
Yeah,
If you're gonna leave them outside, they need shade. They need a lot of extra water,
yeah,
like more than you think that they need. And certain heat index, you just shouldn't. They just shouldn't be outside. Like
I
they
agree.
really need to be in a cool place. And again, if you have a smushy face dog, we had when were walking dogs and stuff back in LA. I remember I only ever had one case of heat stroke, and it was such a surprising thing that happened because it wasn't that hot. We would purposely take the dogs before it got hot. Like we would go and drive and pick everybody up, take them up into the canyon. And it was like a warm day, but it wasn't a hot day. We'd certainly taken her on hotter days. She was a boxer.
Yeah,
I have, I mean, who knows? Like maybe she didn't drink enough water. I have no idea what it was that day that just put her in it. But I will never forget it. It was the scariest thing. And it was before I was a veterinarian. It was, you know what I mean? And so I was literally just like, she just became like spaghetti and just like she was like not responding. Like she was like so overheating. And thankfully she survived, but it was terrifying because her owners were actually out of the country.
oh, that always happens. Also, another reason to get myBalto. Your pets always get sick when you're gone. Always,
So true.
always, always. Number of pet sitters I have that come in or PetSmart employees, anything, just get myBalto so your information's in one place. I
Yeah.
cannot stress enough. Like it's a huge thing.
Oh, I know. I know. And like we couldn't reach them. I mean, it was awful. It was really, really awful. And so, yeah, even better if you could have a waiver or something that's like exactly. We've thought of these things because we've been in these situations, right? I mean, like that's the whole point. Is like you need to have permission. You need to know how much you're willing to spend. You should think about those things, even though you don't want to think about those things before you leave. But like that's being prepared. That's making sure somebody has access to funds and knows how far they should go if something
Yep.
were to happen to your dog. Because like sometimes you are out of the country and you can't be reached. If you're on a cruise, if you're on a boat, you may not be able to be reached. And then what happens?
Yeah.
So you should think about those things ahead of time. And just with heat stroke, I mean, it's one of those things like try to just think about it ahead of time. Try not to put a dog that has a smushy face and already a limited capacity to cool themselves down in a situation where it's hot. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to take the chance. They might be fine. They might have been fine the last 8 times, which in this case with this particular dog, she had hiked with us for years and been fine. Hotter
Yeah.
days. But this day she was not fine. And I remember that was like that was such a scary, scary day.
It's terribly it's terrifying because I see owners are really upset afterwards. They know the dog was too hot, and dogs don't self-regulate. That's the
No.
problem. Um, like even huskies on the Iditarod will have heat stroke because they don't stop running. They're literally running in snow, and they just like to run so much that they heat up so much that they have heat stroke. Like that's how
Mm-hmm.
bad it is sometimes.
Right.
So dogs don't self-regulate their own exercise. They get excited. They want to be there. They're running around with their best friends, and then 10 degrees later, they're too warm, and yeah, it's our responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. And then if God forbid it does happen, get them care very, very quickly and don't like throw them in a bathtub full of ice.
Do that. Call your vet as soon as you can.
Call your vet as soon as you can. Don't try to treat it yourself. Just call your vet and get them there as fast as you can, but definitely call them first because there are things you can do to start cooling them on the way in a safe way, but don't throw them in an ice bath.
Ice bath is not the way to do it.
It will
What's
shock them. It's too fast.
too fast.
Yeah. I mean, just, like we've seen a lot of things that, people are so well intended. And so if we can like
Yeah.
just call on your way, but call.
Go to the vet.
Leave
Go.
and go. Yeah. No, it is one of those things, like, if you feel like, there's an emergency like that, like your dog is like not like responding, is seemingly to be having trouble breathing, or is like drooling excessively or something like that, like you should call, yes, but like start the journey. Don't wait for a call back or wait for like advice from the vet. Like that's one of those, like that's another one of those times. Yeah.
Do
Because
not
time
pass
is of
go.
the essence in those times.
Exactly. Just it's like Monopoly. Get your butt moving. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Just get your ass moving, and you got to go. So
Yeah.
it's important. The time is
Yeah.
important then.
But you can save them, and that is they can have a happy ending. So it's not like a
It's
foregone
not.
conclusion. Would you say that you see it go well more than it goes poorly, or does it 50
Depends
50?
on how hot they get. If they're like less than, I'll say like my experience, less than 108, they're gonna do all right.
What? Less than what? I've never had one that high. Oh my
Oh, we had
gosh.
good ones. So we've had a lot that get to like 110 or 112, and you're just like those ones don't do well. Those ones never do well. 106 is pretty manageable, 107, but yeah, once they're starting at 108 or higher,
107 is probably the highest I've ever, maybe 108, but like never higher than that.
yeah, once it gets past 107, it's like yeah,
I'm gonna
oh my
be
god.
honest, I didn't even know thermometers went. I'm just gonna, I mean, because like I would never have seen that in a human, for sure not.
Oh,
So
it's not good. Like when they come in that high, that's usually what happens. So it happens not as often. But like again, anything over that 107, 108 range is kind of like I have concerns.
oh yeah, because
So
doesn't organ damage start happening over 106 or 107?
yeah, that's why like it depends on what time you're catching them at. If they're like on the rise or on the coming down part, if they're rising still while you're getting there, you're in trouble. How long they've been at 106 for, so it's scary. Like I said, that's something why it's important to keep them cool. And
Clearly, I don't deal with this as much as Dr. Robert does. I mean, I've had a handful, but not. I mean, like I didn't even know the thermometer went that high. I'm gonna be so honest. I had no idea.
I did. There was one, the other 112 one. I didn't think it went high. That dog didn't make it. Didn't even stand a chance.
I just thought it would say high after a while. Like I thought it would
I've
just be
gotten
like,
too low. I've gotten too low before. I think lower than
I've
92.
gotten low. That's why I just figured there was a high.
I'm not trying to push it though. So
You're like, I don't want to find out. Well, you could just put it in boiling water. You know what I mean? I mean, I guess that's true. I've that like, but I just didn't think like body thermometer. I don't know. Really, I didn't think about it that much because I've never seen it go higher than, than what I was. I'd be panicking at 107, 108. I'd be like, Robert, what do I do?
everybody's got friends, so we all call
Yeah.
them.
Well, thankfully, I have a brilliant emergency vet at my disposal, and I've certainly called in a favor or two.
All right, I think I've returned the favor a couple times because there's things I don't know. It's funny. So
Well, you know what? We are here to answer your questions anytime. I mean, this went from eating grass, eating feces to the heat stroke in about 2 seconds. But if you have any other questions, we would love to answer them at podcast@mybalto.com. And I don't know, do you have any other springtime things you want to add?
now I was trying to think of something catchy like spring into action with myBalto, but that's about all I got for you. So
Oh, you don't want to just end with spring fever?
spring fever, there you go. I'm gonna watch the draft, guys. Best of luck to all of you and your teams because I know you're all watching that right now. So
Right, exactly. Well, this has been the myBalto. No, it's been the Positive Podcast with Dr. Sam and Dr. Robert. Thanks everyone for listening.
have a great night.